Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. On this week's show, with the election now a month away, is the process safe from foreign interference and voter fraud? We'll talk with New Jersey's head of Homeland Security, Jared Maples. Most people understand the reasons that plastic bags can be a problem, but paper bags? We get reaction to a bill on the governor's desk that would ban many paper bags. Police suicide is a serious issue that doesn't get enough coverage. The Bergen County Sheriff is trying to change that. And Make-A-Wish is celebrating 500,000 wishes granted. But the New Jersey CEO says they are having some troubles during the pandemic. But first, my interview with Jared Maples, New Jersey Director of Homeland Security. Director, thanks so much for spending time with us today. I know this is a busy time for you with the election now just a month away. What type of security risks are you looking at right now? Is there something that's currently happening that you're concerned about?
So we look at all risks all the times of the year. We're constantly assessing our risk, whether it be physical or cyber, whether it be from things like unrest or civil unrest, disinformation, misinformation. We're constantly evaluating our risk posture. And right now, as it relates to the election system, it's one of the elements right now that we think can contribute to our current threat environment, which is essentially the presidential election. It is one of those ones that is a seminal election. I mean, they're all important. This one seems to be very important, regardless of sides. Making sure the locations for the drop boxes, for example, or those locations that are opened up for our disability population or people with disabilities population to vote, making sure that those are physically secure. Those are important. But then also the cyberspace, whether it be voter registration system or any of the online capabilities for our election system, working in tandem with the Department of State to make sure that those are as secure as possible. It can be a challenge, as you can imagine, but those are things that we focus on year round. And then from an overarching election piece, we do believe firmly in the election system. It is good, it is solid, and we are doing everything we possibly can to secure it. But that becomes an important point.
I don't know whether, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know whether I should be concerned or feel better by your answer, because I asked directly about threats that are happening right now. Do I take from your answer that there are none right now that you're concerned about, any direct threats, or do I take from your answer there are threats that you can't talk about?
So I'll tell you this very clearly and declaratively. There are threats from misinformation and disinformation regarding the elections. There is no question that foreign adversaries, and I can't get into the specifics of this, but they want to cause chaos and sow discontent throughout. Again, regardless of political leanings or ideology or party, this is about causing chaos in America, and that is happening. There's no doubt about that. There are no specific or credible threats from a physical perspective, and there are always ongoing threats on a cyber side regarding ransomware and those type of things.
You talked about disinformation. Who is doing it, and are they specifically targeting New Jersey?
So right now, from an election standpoint, that is our primary concern. And I'll say, we say it in our report, I can say declaratively 3 countries that we know of is Russia, China, and Iran. We talk about that. We do know that there are targeted influence campaigns, whether they be social media, whether they be done on traditional media like text messaging, using phones, or whisper campaigns.
Are you talking about specifically New Jersey? Are they targeting New Jersey?
They're targeting America across the board, but yes, it filters into New Jersey. We've had plenty of instances where residents, one example was more into the COVID crisis, which we can talk about, but there was a text message, for example, there. When it comes to elections, it's the lowest common denominator is the target, and the target in this case is the country, which absolutely means citizens in New Jersey. So as our citizens are retweeting something or pushing a narrative that is factually inaccurate, a lot of times that is being generated from a foreign adversary. In my career at CIA, I would have never thought about a target being in a local municipality in New Jersey, but they become a target, right? If the Russians or Chinese or Iranian troll farms amongst other areas can get a person to retweet and push that narrative to their friends and family and whoever follows them on social media, for example, again, there's larger mediums. that's a win for them. And that's what they're trying to do. So it's never been more important than this election and this season right now for folks to critically think through what they read, what they see, what they hear, what they're focused on social media, and making sure that they're only looking at the right things, the real relevant information.
Let's deal with the disinformation about COVID-19. What are you seeing?
One of the key roles we've taken on early is we noticed that there was a disinformation and misinformation campaign about COVID and coronavirus, and it was two-parted. One was there's an official narrative. An example I've used before is the Deputy Foreign Minister of China very early on, I'm talking in March, tried to assert that the United States was behind COVID. That's patently false. That didn't happen. That's an official narrative from an official government source. That's disinformation and misinformation at work. But then also we saw this underlying approach of the text message. I mentioned that earlier, and there was a text message that went out that essentially said, quote, I have a friend in FEMA or the military or the federal government, and they've said on good terms that the military is going to come and kick everybody's doors in and take over and install martial law in America. Well, that was patently false, and clearly now, and sitting here in October of 2020, we know that. But at the time, people were very concerned, and I mean, really from across all sectors of society. My phone was literally ringing off the hook. Our analysts, a lot of our folks that do this on a daily threat level, and saying, "Is this going to happen? What do I do? How do I align my business?" Or a mayor, for example, or senior business leaders have reached out again to me personally and across our agency. Is this a problem? And look, that in itself causes discontent, chaos at the time where we needed people to be together, listen to the official narrative. This is how we're approaching this. From the governor's side, transparency became huge. We wanted to make sure we highlighted that. So that text message actually started off our website that we have at njohsp.gov. And it's a disinformation and rumor control website. And it lays out what disinformation is about COVID. And again, we posted that also on the state website, the covid19.nj.gov website. But we've put that out, that narrative, to show people that these aren't factual. Some of the things about vaccinations, for example, there's all kinds of rumors and disinformation out there about those. For example, and you can run the gambit of anything throughout this crisis, and you'll see disinformation and misinformation. And we view it as a core Homeland Security requirement or responsibility to highlight what that is, and then what the factual and transparent information really is.
Anything else in that risk assessment that you released last week that we should know about?
So I think one of the important points of that risk assessment, and our agency always puts an annual threat assessment out. We've talked about it in the past, you and I, Larry. And I think one of the key elements of this is we felt so strongly about the convergence of threat that we're facing right now. The COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic across the board, the civil unrest that you're seeing, again, taken beyond rightful and peaceful protest and moved into a violent an aspect that takes away other people's rights. You've got the presidential election that is very clearly hotly contested, has drawn lines across the country. You have an underlying disinformation and misinformation campaign from foreign governments, from domestic extremists that really run the gambit. Again, that convergence, we felt strong enough that we wanted to highlight that. So I'd highlight for the people that these are unprecedented times, but it's important to note we're still America. We still have a strong election system. We still have a lot of folks that are standing on those on that wall and making sure that we are protecting our system, our people, our way of life. There is hope out there. There's a lot of hope, and that's what we're trying to drive to.
Sorry, I always appreciate your time. Good luck with the election.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Larry.
That was Jared Maples, Director of Homeland Security in New Jersey. When we come right back, a national movement to stop surprise medical bills that insurance doesn't cover. That's when we come right back.